1st, 2024. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So if everyone could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good.
So I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting, particularly Superintendent Dr. Diane Gullett, our school board chair, Miss Nancy Thrower, and also any other board members and district personnel that are with us. Thank you for being here today. And I will turn this over to Diana Williams for a roll call for the members.
Okay, Jane Morley,
Present.
Marianne Collins, Diana Williams, here. Pastor Howard, Mr. Osley,
Present.
Neil McDonald,
Present.
Sarah Werkheiser, butchered that one, sorry. Floyd Magwood,
Present.
Julie Rockland, Melanie Leister,
Present.
Jennifer Hatchett. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Excellent. All right, so next on the agenda is the acceptance of our minutes from the last meeting, which should be in your packet. So if you had a chance to look at those, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I move that we accept the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so passed. So we are going to start with a district welcome from our superintendent, Dr. Diane Gullett. So Dr. Gullett.
Good afternoon, Chair Osley and members of the ICROC committee. Welcome, and a special welcome to all of our new members and our alternates. We have a terrific turnout tonight, and I'm just honored to be here with all of you. I want to provide an opportunity, though, to introduce, I'm sure all of you know her, our esteemed chair of our school board, Nancy Thrower, and give her a few minutes to say hello as well.
Thank you, Dr. Gullett, and good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor and pleasure on behalf of the Marion County School Board to welcome you and thank you for serving on this critically important independent Citizens Referendum Oversight Committee. You are overseeing millions of dollars that is directly attributable to supporting children and all students in Marion County Public Schools. So it's very important work. I commend you for taking time out of your day to volunteer for this committee, and I just wanted to personally extend my gratitude and a welcome, and not just mine, but on behalf of the whole school board. So thank you again. Have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Thrower. It's hard to follow Chair Thrower, but I do want to say thank you as well on behalf of the district. Again, welcome to all of our new members, and we appreciate your presence and your volunteerism too. What we know ICROC is for is an oversight over our spending from operations of the district of these tax dollars that our community has invested in us. And so we are grateful for those dollars, and we are grateful for this committee in giving us feedback on our spend to ensure that we are helping every student succeed. So without further ado, I'd like to just say thank you to all of you and thanks to my team.
So from there, next on the agenda is an overview of how the referendum dollars are being spent, and CFO, Ms. Teresa Boston Ellis, you are up.
Good evening. We do thank you for this opportunity to share with you what we believe continues to be exciting news regarding Marion County Public Schools referendum for the second quarter for 2023-2024. This, as I stated previously, is the second quarter cumulative report. Today we'll share not only the expenditures update, but also what's been happening in our schools as it relates to the referendum funding. You have several handouts in front of you. There is you should have the PowerPoint. You should also have a cumulative expenditure report. This is a new report. As you know, we are sharing funds with our charter school, so under the advisement of your chair, Osley, we wanted to present numerically where the money is budgeted and where it is being spent. You should also have a schedule that has the PE teachers, and it should say at the top of it, Fund 1000, which is the general fund, and the Fund 1300, which is the referendum funding. A lot of the handouts that we've provided to you are based on questions that we continue to get from the committee, so we started incorporating this information, and this was one of those schedules that was requested to know what was being paid out of general fund for these particular positions, as well as the referendum. The next schedule you should have is library media, and again, from Fund 1000, which is the general fund, and also Fund 1300, which is the referendum fund. The next schedule is art, again, based on where the funding is. The staff would either be in general fund 1000 or referendum 1300. The following schedule is for music teachers, Fund 1000, as well as the referendum funding. And the last schedule that you have is entitled 2023-24 Referendum Funding Units. Again, this is at a level of detail at the school. It provides the budgeted units, the original, if there were any amendments, and then the actual number of units or staff, as we refer to it, as of the period of time that we are reviewing. So let's get started. Joining me today as presenters are Charity Corneliuson, who is our coordinator of physical education, Catherine Ott, who is the coordinator of career and technical education, Erin Martin, who is the program specialist with media centers, Brooke Hutto, our new coordinator of the fine arts, which includes music as well as art, and Danielle Chauncey, she's taken the position of Mrs. Hughes, and Danielle Chauncey is the coordinator of professional leadership and learning. And last but not least, Mr. Dennis McFadden, who is the executive director of Safe Schools. I think there was an ask last time about having a list of all the presenters. So before we get started, I wanted to bring your attention back to the legal size document that was presented to you. And again, it's called Cumulative Expenditures from July 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. On the very far left, you can see the revenue that is budgeted as well as the revenue that we have received. I always want to remind you, we do not begin to receive revenue until late November and then December and January through the end of the year. And that's based on the local tax collections. We do have some interest recorded. You will see it states Florida Fit Investments as well as Florida Palms, and any excess funds that are not being used, we invest those dollars, and even the interest comes back to this particular fund that's associated with the balances. On the very left side, you'll see all of the different programs the budget versus actual expenditures. So it begins with music, and then art, and again, music, PE, and so forth. So on the far left side, there is a listing of all the different programs, the amount that's budgeted for those programs, if there were any revisions, and then the actual expenditures associated with those budget and programs. In the middle section is our new addition for this year, and that are our charter schools, based on legislation as well as some additional, I would say, litigation. We are now required to share those funds with the charter schools. So for the current year, you can see that all of the charter schools are included. They provided a budget of what they want to spend the money on, but you will see in the next quarter where they begin to start spending those dollars. But the total revenue for charter schools is $775,000, and then again, they are budgeted at that same amount, and they are required to use the same categories that we use because of the resolution. So you'll see that those budget items for the charter school do line up the same as with the regular public school dollars. And then the far right corner will be the total of both the district, if I might, and also the charter, so combined. There was quite a bit of activity in January, and you will see that being projected in the next quarter report. So if there are no questions on that, I'll continue on.
All right, I think you can continue on unless anybody has any questions.
I did have a question, just for clarification, and I do apologize if this was covered at the last meeting. I was not present for that. Down at the bottom for the Safe School Res Off and the Safe School Supervisor, what's the difference in those categories?
It's basically how we set up the projects. So one of the categories has in it the things that we are purchasing, like the door buzzers, the cameras. The other one accumulates the cost of the SROs.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? All right, great, thank you.
Okay, we'll continue on. On slide 2, just a reminder, the 1 mil ad valorem property tax was voted on November 8th, 2022, and that was the second renewal. It's effective from July 1, 2023 through June 30, 2027. You're all familiar with what we can use those dollars on: library and media, physical education, reading, art, retaining certified teachers, paraprofessionals, helping us meet class size, as well as school safety. And school safety was, that was added in our first renewal. School safety was added. If we include the budgeted amount for the current year, we will have accumulated, or will accumulate, $197.8 million at the end of the 23-24 year. And that's including all of the actual funds that we've received, as well as what we've budgeted for this current year. Our total expenditures since 2015, 2016, again, including the budget for the 22-23 year, totals $189 million. Just a reminder that all of our funding comes from local taxes. Our revenue received to date is $24.6 million, and that represents about 73% of what we had budgeted and what our expectation is. And we've spent to date, meaning as of the end of December, $15.3 million, which represents about 40.75% of what was budgeted. Again, this is a top view of all of our budgeted expenditures, and this includes both the school district as well as charter schools, so this is everything. Our total budgeted expenditures is $37.5 million, and the class size, which represent teachers as well as paras, and we'll talk about all of these categories a little bit more in detail, but it represents 18.3 million, or 49% of the total budgeted expenditures. Physical education is 2.9 million, representing 7.8% of the total budget. Vocational is 2.3 million, representing 6% of the total budget. Library media is 1.4 million, representing 3.6% of the total budget. Art, 1.8 million, 4.9% of the total budget. Music, around 2 million, 5.3% of the budget. Professional development, it's approximately $1 million, and at 2.6% of the entire budgeted expenditures. Rounds out with school safety at $8 million, and that represents about 21.2% of the entire budgeted expenditures. Here's another snapshot of actual expenditures by program. You will note that the total expenditures as of December 2023, and that's the very last line, so we're talking about $15.3 million in total. General fund referendum. The beginning fund balance, so just to remind everyone, anything that we do not spend out of this fund gets carried over to the next year. It is a restricted source of funds, and so at the beginning of the year, we had $12.7 million. We have budgeted about $33.5 million for this year, budgeted expenditures of $37.5 million. So we're anticipating a budgeted fund balance at the end of 23-24, the total of $8.8 million. Again, if it's greater or less, all of that is carried over to the next fiscal year. Now we will look at the Marion County Public Schools, excluding the charter schools, and look at the activity in all of these programs. The first category is class size reduction. Again, a part of the referendum was to help with the class size reduction, which includes not only teachers, but also paraprofessionals. And it has been the district's choice to fund the kindergarten paras out of the referendum. So the class size budget is $18.2 million. We've spent to date about $7.3 million, which includes the expenditure of 154 teachers and 170 paraprofessionals, and the spending to date represents 40.03% of the entire budget for this category or this program. So next, we'll move on to physical education. Ms. Corneliuson.
Good afternoon. I'm Charity Corneliuson. I'm the coordinator for physical education for Marion County Public Schools. And first, I want to thank you all for coming and for having me here to share some of the great things that are going on in physical education in our county. I am always excited to have the opportunity to share with you and anyone who might watch a lot of the things that our physical educators do for our students every day. As you know, the referendum makes it possible to fully staff all of our schools with certified PE professionals. They provide a very important component to a well-rounded education. Because of the referendum, we are able to provide the state-mandated 150 minutes of physical education instruction weekly to every student in grades K through 5. Many schools also take advantage of events that provide opportunities for students to showcase their skills alongside other students in our area. Most recently at the elementary soccer jamboree. That was the last day before Thanksgiving break at Rotary Sportsplex. Elementary athletes from 8 Marion County schools and a team of volunteers from Vanguard's Teacher Academy enjoyed a day of fitness and fun with their families before embarking on their holiday. The dedication of our physical educators to promoting sportsmanship and teamwork was on display as our schools competed in this jamboree. During the month of December, elementary physical education teachers across the county shared daily fitness challenges with their classes and faculty. Over the span of a 12-day countywide challenge that include both faculty and students, hundreds of students and their teachers participated in the 12 days of fitness, where they performed daily group exercises. Students and teachers could be seen in classrooms, PE fields, and hallways doing their push-ups, burpees, jumping jacks, and wall sits. Our physical educators work hard every day to not only teach the required standards, but more importantly, to foster a love of movement and desire to build healthy bodies for a lifetime. The support of this referendum makes it possible for us to provide this to our students. Thank you.
I'm wondering what a burpee is. How about you?
It's not pretty.
You don't want to know.
Okay. That's a curiosity kills the cat, right?
Very unpleasant.
So looking at our physical education program, it funded 20 PE teachers and 25 PE technicians. We've spent about 39% of the projected budget of $2.8 million. It pays for salary and benefits, and then also each elementary school gets $2 per student to buy things that are needed in the program, ranging from balls to licenses or anything in addition to what they currently have in their classes. Next, we will look at the vocational programs, and this was one of the items, when we came out of the recession, we were looking at restoring the various programs that had been cut, like the PE program, library media, of course, class size, but also the board at that time wanted to enhance our vocational programs. And our district has done a wonderful job, and it was almost as if we were leading the state in developing vocational programs, because now that's one of the main drivers of our legislation and our governor is enhancing vocational programs, because everyone doesn't want to go to college after they get out of high school. So here's an opportunity for our students, and we've seen these programs grow, and I think I'll let Ms. Adi provide the information on the vocational programs at this time.
Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Adi. I'm the coordinator for CTE here in Marion County. Typically in these meetings, we share a lot about technological updates happening in our vocational programs. It's very expensive to update technology. So today I'm going to focus actually on some of the other things that we've updated through referendum funds. Pictured here, we're very fortunate in our county to have 4 high school and 5 middle school culinary programs. As you can imagine, to have consumable supplies such as food for them to cook for over 2,000 students is very, very expensive for their labs. We're very fortunate to be able to use referendum to help supplement that fund and buy those supplies for those programs. Pictured here are Osceola Middle School students. They're completing a baking lab. As part of the lab, student teams formulate their own cupcake recipe using what they've learned in class about both texture and flavor combinations. Once they have their recipe, students must also do a presentation on how they formulated their recipe, cooking techniques used, and how they would market the item. This is just one of many culinary labs happening throughout the year. Denellen High School runs a very special program. It's the only one in the district at this time. It's an early childhood education program where the students in the program actually run a school for 3 and 4-year-olds called Kitty World. We recently had a business advisory committee meeting for that program and identified that we were using a different curriculum with those 3 and 4-year-olds than what's used throughout the rest of the district in our VPK programs. Once we identified that, we were able to use referendum funds to buy that same curriculum our elementary schools are using. So we're switching them to the Frog Street curriculum. This will not only help ease the transition of those Kitty World students into elementary school, but also give our high school students access to that reviewed curriculum that the rest of our teachers are actually using. We've also been able to update both the broadcasting equipment and the editing software for all of our digital video programs. Those last 2 pictures are some of our high school digital video students from North Marion. They went over to Anthony Elementary recently and worked with the elementary school students on their video submissions for the Media Festival. We offer CTE programs in all of the pathways listed here, both in all of our middle schools and all of our high schools. The items on the previous slides are just the few things that we use referendum to support in those programs. Some projects we have coming up this spring that referendum is supporting, some of our bigger projects, is an expansive update to the Denellen High School welding lab, an entire lab update for one of our digital video programs, as well as we're sending our manufacturing teacher to a hands-on training for robotic arms so that he can train his students in the cutting-edge field of robotics manufacturing. So we'll be excited to share the updates of those projects that are happening right now with you at the next meeting. Thank you.
So for our vocational referendum funded 18 teachers, as well as the things that were previously mentioned, some purchase services, which includes licensing, and when it says utilities, that's basically the fuel that is, that's how we have to record fuel. And that is for field trips that the students were taking. Materials and supplies and capital outlay is basically the equipment that was purchased for this program. Their total budget is $2.3 million, and they've spent about $712,000 to date, which represents about 31.57% of their budget. We'll next look at the library and media programs in our schools, and that will be discussed by Mr. Aaron Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aaron Martin. I'm Program Specialist for Library Media Services here in Marion County. I serve all of our schools and students pre-K through 12th grade by supporting their school library media specialists and their library programming. I'm here today to show you all the wonderful things our library media specialists do at their school sites to improve student achievement and set them up for future success. I always like to highlight what our media specialists do, because the bulk of our referendum allocation for libraries is spent on the salaries of our media specialists. Prior to the initial approval of the referendum, our media specialists were splitting their time among multiple schools, and having this allocation from referendum allows us to provide the vital access of certified library media specialists to all of our students every day of the week. And one of those benefits is highlighted right here on this first slide. Our circulation of library materials so far this year is just under 309,000 items, which is right on par with last year. It's actually a slight increase of about 800 books. And our library media specialists also support and promote our digital reading platform, Marion. And you can see the usage there shows that we have 135,000 books, or 3.7 million minutes read in the first 2 quarters of the school year. which reflects an 18.6 increase in the number of books read and a 25% increase in the amount of minutes read on Marion for the same time last school year. Our certified library media specialists not only provide access to thousands of books on a regular basis, they also teach important skills and lessons such as internet safety, elements of a story, research skills, and many other topics that are important to the academic success and safety of our children. This can be seen in these pictures from East Marion Elementary and Dr. N.H. Jones Elementary. Our media specialists are also committed to enhancing learning by establishing a culture of literacy on their campus. More than simple encouragement to read, a deep-rooted, ingrained culture of literacy on a campus is vital to empowering students to become proficient learners in accessing information and engaging in meaningful experiences. Pictured here are a few examples of strategies utilized in our district. These displays and activities are changed out regularly, and they serve to spark curiosity, engage interest of our students, so that they may develop the desire to subscribe and contribute to this culture of literacy.
Thanks, Mr. Martin. Again, the referendum funds 15 media specialists, which represents about 39.78% of the budget. The budget is $1.4 million. And some of the other items that they use referendum for, again, $2 per student in each school. And those include supplies, book signage, bookcases, and other needs in the classroom. Next, we will go to the fine arts. This is a combination of not only art, but also music. And one day I'm going to figure out how to combine those two so that Ms. Hutto doesn't have to keep getting up and down for this presentation. So I'll turn it over to her at this particular time.
Good afternoon. My name is Brooke Hutto, and I am the coordinator of visual and performing arts for all K-12 schools in Marion County. I'd like to thank you guys for being here. It is always a privilege to be able to see you guys, and thank you for taking your time out to help with this project. Up on the screen, you'll see there are some pictures representing our visual arts programs. We have had a whirlwind second quarter in the fine arts. In October, our K-12 visual arts students participated in the 54th annual Fine Arts for Ocala Arts Festival, also known as FAFO. They've displayed an array of striking pieces from 2D and 3D artwork. Our students received 8 elementary purchase awards and 2 secondary purchase awards, along with prizes for Best in Show and 2nd through 4th place at the middle school and high school levels. These students were then honored at a reception held at the Appleton Museum in December, which you can see at the bottom. That is some of the FAFO board members, along with some of our elementary students showcasing their artwork. In addition, we've had 6th to 8th grade students who submitted artwork for Art in the Capitol, which is an annual art contest where one student's piece is selected from each county in Florida. It is then framed and travels to the Capitol building to be displayed for the next legislative session. Our winner this year was Krista Trussell. She's taught by Shauna Mankiewicz at Dunellen Middle School, and that is a picture of her holding her piece that is now framed in the Capitol building in Tallahassee. I'm going to skip right ahead. Yep. All right. So we have also, in addition to our visual arts, we also have our performing arts. And this is kind of showcasing, this first slide showcases more of our elementary side of performing arts. They've been showcasing their talents and hard work in a variety of venues, both in Marion County and beyond. The Shady Hill Harmony, pictured at the bottom left-hand corner, as well as the Forest High School Canto Cats and the Howard Middle School Band and Choirs performed at our Veterans Day celebration in November. At the FAFO Arts Festival, we had not only visual art on display, but student entertainment that's provided by a variety of elementary and secondary choral and dance groups that was held at Citizen Circle in downtown Ocala. In the top left corner, you'll see there's an image. This actually was at Forest High School doing a rehearsal. It was 19 of our schools were represented from our elementary schools in our 10th annual All-County Elementary Choir Concert, which was held at the Riley Arts Center this past Wednesday, January 24th. The concert was conducted. We invited Dr. Kelly Miller from the University of Central Florida to come out and work with our students, and they had an incredible time being able to work with her and learn her amazing techniques. And it was a great way to show camaraderie across all of our different schools. Our kids got to meet students from other schools who absolutely love music, and they got to sing together and perform on stage. I did want to point out the picture in the bottom right-hand corner. Those are not students, those are adults. They are our teachers. Our music teachers have the incredible opportunity during our early release days each month to be able to get together and to work and collaborate in a way that they don't normally get on their individual school campuses. Because being the only elementary music teacher or the only elementary art teacher on your campus, there's no one you really get to talk to. So we get to come together once a month and meet and collaborate and share lesson plans and different ways that we can kind of push ourselves and continue to develop ourselves. And it helps allow us to have some professional growth and also brings fresh new ideas into their classrooms, which in turn benefits their students. Oh, we're missing a slide. Oh, that's why. Okay, so I'm going to share really quickly about our secondary. They're missing a slide, but it's okay. All of our programs in dance, theater, guitar, chorus, and band have spent the second quarter performing both locally and across the state of Florida. Westport High School's Rock Pack returned to the stage at FAFO this year, and they were showcasing their tribute to the music of the Beatles, which was a really awesome, exciting event. Our high school marching band programs have been everywhere from football games to competitions across the state to participating in their district FBA marching music performance assessments. The Lake Weir High School and Forest High School marching bands will actually be traveling to New York City to march in the St. Patrick's Day Parade during their spring break. Bands from middle and high schools also participated in the Ocala Christmas Parade, which was an annual favorite of the community, of course. The Forest High School choir program was selected to perform at Epcot for the annual Christmas Candlelight Processional, and the narrator that evening, which is, I wish we had the picture, but the narrator that evening was Uncle Jesse, John Stamos from Full House. And so the kids were really excited to meet him. So there was a picture of that. By continuing to support the arts as well as part of our well-rounded comprehensive education, we are developing the 4 C's of critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity in our students, who will leave school prepared with the skills and knowledge to address the challenges that face them in this world. We hope that these experiences they have as students will not only create lifelong learners with a love for the arts, but we also hope that they will stay in the Marion County area and that as adults, they will continue to support the cultural arts that are embedded and are part of the life of this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. So we'll go back and look at the art, the fine art, and the art part of the fine arts. 0.5 or 50% is for a coordinator, 16.5 art teachers, as well as 8 paraprofessionals. That total budget of $1.8 million, we have spent about 39.24% of that, totaling about $704,000. Again, salaries, employee benefits, and other services, materials, and equipment or fees for this particular program.
I do have a question. Again, I apologize if this was covered previously.
You're fine. It's okay.
So I note that the budget was for 18, and at the beginning, I believe I saw that that's in half. Am I understanding that correctly? That's half of the art teachers, and then the other half comes from the general fund. Am I understanding that correctly?
Pretty much on that schedule, this should reflect half. In some instances, programs have grown. So maybe at a school originally, they earned 1 teacher. If they have expanded, they might have received another teacher. But the referendum represents half of what it would have been pre or at the recession. Before the recession.
I'm also noting that across the board, we don't have the original budgeted. Is that open?
These are vacant positions, correct.
But for the most part, do you feel like most of the schools have teachers in these positions?
I believe they do, or there may be a long-term sub, but we would not charge the sub to a referendum.
Okay, thank you.
These are excellent questions, thank you. They're good for clarification. Then we'll move on to the other half of fine arts, which again is 0.5 coordinator, 17.5 music teachers, and 8 paraprofessionals. In addition to the $2 per elementary student for each elementary school, secondary receives an additional allocation for music, not just band, but also the band gets an allocation, but the secondary music programs receive an allocation as well. $121,655. So of this budget of $1.9 million, 38.76% has been spent. Mostly, again, salary benefits, and then purchase services or utilities, which again is fuel for the buses for field trips, materials and supplies to support this program. There is a lot of band equipment repair that has been made, and then some additional headsets, keyboards for some classes, and some other equipment needed in the area of music. Next, we will discuss our professional leadership and learning, and Ms. Danielle Chauncey will come up and have that discussion.
Thank you. Yes. Hello, it's great to be in front of you again today. I did have the opportunity to represent the department. I believe it was in the July meeting, so I'm glad to see you, many familiar faces and many new faces. Thank you again, like everyone has repeated, for taking the time to be part of this committee, and you can see I'm so excited about the work that they're presenting today. And then I get to share about the professional leadership and learning portion of this, which I'm happy to report since October, there has been an increase of 22 new teachers identified as novice educators who are receiving support from a mentor, which we call through the Induction and Mentoring Program, an instructional talent developer. Notably, our high schools experienced the largest increase in novice educators entering into the program since our report in October, with a rise from 58 educators to 70. So we're excited that we're bringing teachers into their school system and providing them that support of that mentor through the funds provided through referendum. But furthermore, you can also see here that there's not been many additional changes to the school numbers for school counselors or social workers, as those participations have remained consistent. As a result of this increase, we then also look at our budget and what is that going to entail. For an anticipated payout for the mentors or that instructional talent developer, that payout rose because of the 22 new mentors that we are now supplying to new novice educators. So that number rose a little bit to be $377,300. But there's also the no change with the lead mentor allocation. I know there's some familiar faces, so I'll elaborate on that. What is the difference between that we see here between a novice educator mentor and our lead mentors? And you can see based on the lead numbers, there's 48. That would be one person on each campus to support the school-based induction program at large. So that's a little bit different role than just a mentor, but they're also leading the mentors and guiding that professional learning on campus for the whole cohort. That number has not changed since last reported in October. So at this point, the mentoring and induction program remains well within the approved budget. And additionally, we'd like to report that the current charter school allocation stands at $331,238 for charter schools to implement a site-based mentoring and induction program. I once again want to thank you for your continued support in providing these funds to continue professional learning and support our new teachers so they can retain those educators and positively impact instruction every day in the classroom.
Thank you.
So the work is going on, but there have been no dollars spent. You'll typically see some spent in the next quarter, but the majority of the funds that are spent will be after the end of the school year, when those leaders, mentors are paid their stipend for participating in the program. So next we will go to school safety. Mr. Dennis McFadden, our Executive Director of Safe Schools.
Good afternoon, and thanks again for the support and priority given to protecting our students, staff, and visitors. As we continue to create opportunities to make our schools safer, it has become apparent that keeping schools safe is more than door buzzers, cameras, fences, and school safety officers. The goal will always be to provide a level of physical hardening measures that allow students, staff, and visitors the opportunity to place time and distance between them and a potential threat. However, physical security is only part of the solution. In addition to physical hardening measures, we must adopt policies, procedures, and best practices and train staff on the procedures available to them before, during, and after an emergency. We are rapidly becoming a district that is close to meeting our camera and door buzzer needs. Unfortunately, school safety and security is so much more than physical barriers that are designed to stop and or deter unauthorized visitors from entering and causing harm to students, staff, and visitors. The first slide is a list of some of the school safety projects that are currently in place or will be initiated as we move into the next phase of our school hardening projects. As you can see on this list, we've got 383 lock replacements, and basically what that is every school has an external key lock, a master lock on their schools. In the past, all of those locks were the same. The key to those locks were the same. We felt it was safer and better to change those locks to be unique for that specific school. That way, if an individual has a key to Vanguard, that same individual can't get onto the campus at Forest High School. And unfortunately, we have volunteers or visitors that may be in the community, they should only have access to one school. The next item on there is the 800 megahertz mobile and portable radios. Those radios were purchased to be placed on our school buses and also to have for the safe school staff. So you wonder, why do we need radios on buses? Well, these radios, they are able to connect directly to law enforcement in the time of an emergency. And the reason we do that is because we've got over 22,000 students ride our buses, and usually our bus drivers and our transportation department are the first to see many of our students. And so therefore, we want to be able to provide a safe haven for them to and from schools. As always, additional security cameras will be placed in our different schools, and understanding something about security cameras, we're getting to a point to where, yes, we may have that completion of having cameras on every schools, but now we need to start the process of replacing old, outdated cameras. Sometimes we get phone calls that the cameras are blurry and they can't be adjusted, and we send technicians out to them, and unfortunately, it's not the focus that's off, but the cameras are just old and have to be replaced. So we'll start trying to replace those cameras as well. The signal strength testing is something that was required by the state of Florida, because if you have a knowledge of what happened in Parkland, as the deputies and officers went into that school, their portable radios were not working, and that hindered their response into the school. So the state basically has required us, all schools across the state, to provide a level of access for those portable radios. Although we don't purchase the radios that the SROs use, we are responsible for making sure that they work in every one of our schools. So this testing will give us a frequency of whether those radios are working or not in those schools, and if not, we have to provide some type of booster or signal to make sure that they're working. As you're aware, we do have school resource officers at every school, and some of our schools have 2 of them at our high schools. Equipment for sworn officers, that's the safe school staff. We are a support arm of the school system for our current law enforcement officers, SROs that's on the campus. The Raptor replacement printers. If you go to any school, when you sign in, you have to go through that Raptor visitor or volunteer process. Those printers print you out a little badge. We just now learned that Raptor has went to a new model, and they've stopped making, and that's how business works. They let you use it for 3 or 4 years, and then they change the model on you and force you to buy a new printer. So we will be looking at purchasing printers because they don't make replacement parts for the one model that we're currently using. So we may have to replace all 50 printers at our schools. And then the volunteer criminal background checks. This also goes through Raptor. And if you're familiar with the Jessica Lunsford Act, again, that's required when you come onto the campus. We run your name through Raptor to ensure that no sex offenders are allowed to be in proximity to our kids. By going through this Raptor system, we're able to detect who they are and provide the appropriate procedures for them. In closing, you may be aware of many school threats that has been made across the state of Florida, but in some cases specifically directed toward schools and staff in Marion County. Please know that we're working closely with our local, state, and federal partners to respond, identify, and prosecute those involved in these senseless crimes. Some of this stuff may require a shift in our resources needed to assist in these threats, but overall, we want to ensure you that Marion County Public Schools are meeting the mandates to protect our students and staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guess we missed the radios on the buses. He's quite passionate about what they do, and that makes us all feel a lot safer. And here are the gate key replacements that Mr. McFadden talked about. I can assure you we have come a long way in terms of safety since Dr. Gullett has been here. And we're all appreciative of that, and I know parents are as well as our employees. So the Safe Schools budget, we've spent about, let's see, I've got to find that page myself, 53.79% of that budget. The salary and benefits that are indicated here are the guardians. We do pay a stipend to our guardians. Purchase services include $2.2 million of costs towards the SROs. Materials and supplies include those door buzzers and cameras that he spoke of in materials and supplies and the capital outlay. So this budget of $7.8 million, we are moving right away. I think Mr. McFadden mentioned the radios that were installed over the Christmas holidays, and we do have a lot of work to go, but we have, as I've stated, we've come a long way, and the referendum has helped push us toward meeting the mandates that are required. We do get some safe funding, safe schools funding, and that is to the tune of about $3 million from the state. We've also received funding outside of the referendum for some fencing, but we have had to use our district funds as well for fencing and other expenditures. But the referendum has helped support the cost of SROs, as I've stated, also our guardians, as well as materials and supplies, and some capital outlay needed to keep our schools safe.
Okay, it's me again.
Okay.
You mentioned the SROs and the $3 million going towards that. What is the total cost, if you know, or, what is the other half of that?
The rest of that would be in the general fund, and it's probably almost $2 million. I don't have that exact
No,
number
that's
right
right.
now.
It's okay. Approximate is okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, are they all paid equally? Is that based on
No.
seniority? Okay.
Each entity has a different funding stream, if you would. It's the sheriff, and then also Bellevue, as well as the city and they each have a different funding request per officer cost, if you would. That's okay. Any other questions on Safe Schools?
Yes, I have a question. In regards to the public schools and the charter schools, these programs and projects and we are discussing today, are they all enveloped together, or the charter schools have theirs and the public schools have theirs?
You answered the question.
That's it.
Yes. I don't know if you want to elaborate.
So in other words, the school safety projects that's going on in the public schools, Mr. McFadden, you are not involved in that in the charter schools?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, we have, and I say we're involved because our charter schools works very well with us. When you go to some other counties, that's just not always the case. But our charter schools has indicated that anything that we do within the public school system, they follow our policies, our procedures when it comes to any safety and security matters. It is much easier for them to follow ours rather than trying to create them themselves. So what we do is we work with them, and if I purchase we help them with their door buzzers. In other words, when I say help them, they have their funding, but they may use a vendor that we use, or they may ask us to come out and do security checks or security assessments at their schools. Some of the things that we purchase, like the Raptor program, we purchase to make sure that they're checking those visitors coming in through our Raptor system, but they pay for their printer or their cost of this system. We just feel that they are part of the state mandate. When you read the state statute, it always says public and charter. So rather than having charter schools out of compliance, which affects Marion County, we feel as though it's important to include them in everything we do so that Marion County as a whole will be in compliance.
And now also, when it comes down to budgeting, the same thing is applicable?
I can't speak on that. I can answer that one. The funding sources that I mentioned, the Safe School allocation from the state that we receive, a portion of that goes to the charter schools. The fencing project, also, a portion of those dollars that we receive goes to the charter school as well. And you will see in just a few minutes, because of the legislation, we are now required to share these referendum dollars.
Okay.
So I think the funding they receive comes from the state through us, and then we basically write the check to them, if that answers the question.
It does. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
I have a question about slide 26. It's in reference to the professional leadership and learning. If I'm assuming that we have 343 mentors, which then would mean 343 new teachers that are being mentored, or is there more than one teacher per mentor?
I'll let the expert speak to that.
Can you repeat the question?
Certainly. It says there's 343 instructional talent developers, and so I'm asking, does that mean there's 343 new teachers that they're mentoring, or are there more than one teacher per developer?
Great question. So you can see the first line in yellow references the new teachers, the novice educator, and there is 343 novice educators, so it is a 1-to-1 ratio.
Okay. So then the charter schools, it would be the same. So they would have roughly 181 teachers that are being mentored?
We cannot speak to that. The charter schools program is separate from the Marion County Public School program. They have the funds to build their own program and spend the funds how they see fit.
Okay, so they don't have to use the same criteria that the public school is using?
Correct. For this program, induction and mentoring.
And so then we wouldn't have the capability to ask how many teachers they're mentoring. We can't question what they're doing at all.
You can
I'm just
tell the
wondering
people
if
who've
they
been on
even
the
have
committee a
181
long time.
teachers. You're getting your extra.
You're absolutely right. And as we begin to increase the funding that is allowed to the charter schools, we have asked them to provide a report that we can share with you to tell us what they're doing with those dollars. So we should be able to have that information at the next quarterly report, because you'll see on the next slide that although we set up the program and created the budget for them, they have not spent anything. So on this slide, it shows you the budget for all of the charter schools. While they have to use the same categories that we use, because that is what's in the referendum resolution, they can choose to do something different. What you will find the next quarter and what they submitted as budgets, it's basically salary and benefits and some supplies. At least that is what the budget they submitted to us. So next quarter, you'll see the actual expenditures, and hopefully, we will have detail of how they are spending those dollars. So go ahead.
I am so sorry. Please finish.
So on this slide, it'll show you that from October, November, December, none of their funding was spent. But I did verify with our finance staff that deal directly with the charter schools that there was some spending in the month of January. So I would anticipate to see that, and I anticipate to have more detail about what exactly they're doing at the same level that we are providing to you for our district.
So we would get the same reporting, number of students and.
Yes, we will do our very best. We can't make them do anything, but we can ask for them to provide the information, because it's important for this committee to have that information.
Let me real quickly, point of clarification, just for my sake and for the board's sake. Our job is to oversee that this money is spent in the ways that the state has designated it, correct?
Yes.
But not necessarily to oversee how those programs are set up or how those dollars are spent within the program. As far as the programmatic side of it, we're just making sure that those dollars are being spent on those programs. Is that a clarification worth noting? Am I correct about that?
Well, if I'm understanding you correctly, it is our responsibility to make sure that they are spending those dollars as designated in the referendum. Mm-hmm. So whereas we may choose to use, just say, the art to increase the number of teachers, they may use the art to purchase all supplies.
Right.
So they don't have to directly align with us. But we feel like it's important for you to know, from a general perspective, what they are doing with these dollars. So they've provided the categories. This is how they're going to spend them. And it is our hope that the next quarter we'll be able to tell you that they hired additional teachers for class size, for professional development. They've hired mentors to mentor their novice teachers, or they could have done something differently with those funds. But as long as they maintain the integrity of the resolution, which was class size reduction, paraprofessionals, as you noticed, they did not put any money in vocational. So they don't have to use every category, but they have to maintain the integrity of what the resolution is requiring. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you.
So to clarify, they are the ones that chose to spend $331,000 on professional development?
Correct.
They made that choice?
Yes.
Okay. My other question was what was the determining factors that went into the $775,000 going to that? Is that based on students? Is it based on number of schools?
Exactly. It's based on the number of students at the charter school. We also have to look at the total allocation and then the number of students at the charter school as compared to the total population of charter school and Marion County Public School students. So it's a straightforward formula. And as the money changes and adjusts, sometimes there's a reduction in the funding based on property values. You know, we still have the Value Adjustment Board. We see our funding adjust, and we will make those adjustments to them. We will adjust it based on the number of students that they have. So right now, we're operating off of a projected number of students, but if that changes, all of that will change as well.
How or when is the number of students in the seats determined? Is that throughout the year periodically?
Yes, we start out with an estimate for the year, and you might be familiar with the October count. That is when we count students, and then we have an actual October count of students, and we do an estimate of what it may be for the rest of the year. And then again, we count, we're getting really close now to the February count, and we also look at students at that point in time as well.
So the charter schools do have to do an FTE also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thought I saw another hand.
So in other words, in regards to the charter school, as you mentioned, hopefully next quarter, you would have the information, but they're not required to give it to you?
They are not required, but we work with them, as Mr. McFadden stated. We work very closely with them, not only with the referendum, but also with the regular district funding as well, because their funding comes through us and then we allocate it to them. So we have really good relationships with our charter schools. So I'm believing that we will get the information we need to give you the comfort level that we are following the heart of what the referendum requires.
If I may ask a question, are they open for our walkthroughs?
That I would have to talk to Mr. Stephen Ayers, who is our liaison. I don't know why they wouldn't be, but I don't want to speak for them.
We could ask them.
We would certainly ask, Dr. Gullett said.
Thank you.
They always invite us to come to their schools. They invite us all the time to visit. But we will find out and let you know. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? I'll turn it back to Mr. Osley.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I thank you to the committee for asking great questions. I mean, I think that says a lot about your engagement in this and our role and responsibility as oversight for this entire community, and I really appreciate the engagement. Are there any other questions about the report from beginning to end? Anything else that anyone had? All right, if not, we did want to talk about the possibility of maybe the committee at some point during the year visiting some of these programs. And so I don't know who from the school system wants to talk to us about what that could look like and what maybe your suggestions may be, but I'd like to at least have that conversation.
Thank you, Chair Osley. I wholeheartedly welcome and encourage you all to visit our schools. We are open to whatever you would like to see, where you would like to go. We will certainly ask the charter schools, and I'm sure they'll be happy to accommodate. I've been visiting all of them as well. So I would suggest perhaps you discuss what types of programs you want to see. Do you want to see one of each of these that are represented through the referendum dollars, what levels you want to see? But we are welcome to any of your input, but certainly very excited about your coming out to tour our schools. Thank you.
So are there any suggestions? I mean, something just popped into my head about maybe what we could do, but I want to hear from the rest of you, like what you would maybe like to see, programs, schools, things like that.
Vocational programs would be of interest to me.
Okay. Vocational. She said vocational programs. I had the thought of maybe if we visited an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. And then maybe you could choose ones that have the most, some good representations of each of these areas. So we could see a few of these in the elementary level, we could see a few of them at the middle school level, and then maybe a few of them at the high school level. If we did 3 visits, maybe we only do 2, I don't know, but that way we could see them across the district. That's just one thought that came to my head. Anything else? By the way, I guess previous committees have gone on visits, but how long has it been since a committee has gone on a visit?
Quite some time.
Say it's been a couple of years. I know Dr. Gonzalez coordinated in my tenure here, and there were tours then, and I don't think we've had any since. So it's been now about 2 years, maybe more than that.
Maybe
Time flies.
post-COVID, maybe?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we had one after, because it's been since I've been here,
Okay.
so.
So I would.
Still too long. We can't wait to have you in our schools, so.
Yeah, I think it would be a good practice for us as a committee to do that on behalf of the community, to go lay our eyes on what's going on. So if everyone is okay with that, and if you have any other suggestions, yes.
I would encourage the committee and Dr. Gullett to give us choices of a variety of schools. We know some of our schools are very well-known and have wonderful programs, but I'd be very interested in seeing maybe an example for one of our more rural schools on each level, because I know across the district we meet different dynamics and different, students, and so I just would like to see some diversity in that.
That's a great suggestion.
I'm not really sure how these schools were selected in the past. I know that we probably have walked through 4 or 5, maybe 6 different schools, and then we were always very well welcomed, and I was very impressed with what I saw and heard. But the vocation, as far as I'm concerned, vocational program was always one of the best, and one that I really enjoyed seeing, because there's a lot of students that don't want to go on to college, and that's a good step in the right direction.
So maybe if we could look back and see some of the ones we visited the last 5, like he mentioned, and choose some different ones, and with this maybe a particular emphasis on some of our more outlying schools that don't get the same maybe sort of attention that others get. So that sounds like. So would I coordinate with you, Superintendent, or how will we do that?
That would be terrific, and I might propose then to the committee looking at the spring, if that's acceptable.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Next few months. Thank you.
All right. So I'll coordinate with the superintendent, and then we'll, by email, throw out some possibilities and some dates, if that sounds good to the committee. All right, great. Next meeting, I think if it's okay with the committee, we don't have one on the schedule yet, but can we?
I thought we did.
Did we?
Yes, I thought we did.
I looked on my calendar. We probably have it in our notes. When is the next meeting? Somebody help me.
Hold on.
We did get a schedule.
May 2nd is the next one I see.
Okay.
May 2nd and then August 22nd.
Great. All right, so we'll send out reminders for that meeting, but we'll be in touch before then about the school visits, the potential school visits for this spring.
I have one last quick
Yes.
request, actually. I know we just got information out about school performances and such, and since this program that we're involved in should affect the outcomes, I was wondering if Dr. Gullett could kind of give us a 2-minute synopsis of any successes that we've had resulting from our efforts.
Thank you for the question. We have already seen tremendous outcomes and growth, and I hope that we'll continue to see that with performance, especially with our career and technical programs. That's what we call them, career and technical education, vocational, the expansion of those. We've had acceleration in our ACE programs, college prep programs, but also what we're seeing in professional leadership and learning. I actually just was asked to do a presentation on that, and seeing that because we're data focused and we're providing what you see our lead specialist providing support in professional learning, that is driving the decisions to reach every child. So when you go on the tours, what we'll try to do is we'll try to match what we're doing for spend with outcome to say, okay, here are expanded career programs, and we'll also take a look at the safety. I think I shared before that I recently visited Marjorie Stoneman Douglas because they're planning to tear that building down. And what we've done to accelerate safety, which is a huge component of our referendum, that translates into safer buildings. And so we will show that to you. As far as outcomes go with that, it's hardening our schools, increased training. I think that is one of those measurables that equates to the surveys of, do you feel safe at school? Do you feel safe for our students, for our visitors, but especially also for our employees? So we will try to give you those and line those up. But I have heard and seen in our surveys that there's an improvement in those areas. There's an improvement in the expansion of our programs. Art and music programs, you've seen successes that we've celebrated not only from our employees, but from our students. And what we've begun to do a better job of is bringing those students forward publicly and recognizing their accomplishments, both through the Appleton, what you saw tonight, but also at our board meetings, to say these are the investment of our art and music programs and how they support student success in the classroom. And I'm really pleased to see the acceleration of those student successes that we celebrate more broadly now. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Well, I'm glad you mentioned the safe schools, because Mr. McFadden, I'm interested in touring and seeing some of the ways in which you guys are working hard, I know, to make schools a safer place. So, and I know from the way they were designed and built 30, 40, 50 years ago, you got your work cut out for you, for sure.
I do have a suggestion, and if this was done and I missed it, I apologize, but were the minutes from the previous meeting and some of these handouts sent previously just so we could take a look over them I am a look ahead kind of person, so when I look at this and we approve that, I would have liked to have that prior to the meeting.
So is that on me?
No, I wasn't looking at you.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm just making a suggestion from this going forward. Okay.
What I can do, and this is something I need to share as well, just for awareness, not just for all of you, especially those that are new members, but to the public, because this is an oversight committee, we don't manage the process. I don't want there to be any concept out there or thinking that we are managing this process. You oversee what we do. And so, but I will make sure to follow back up with the board clerk who supports board services, supports the board to make sure that those items get out to you.
Yeah, to that, I did get everything in advance, and then what I've been working with the clerk to do is to make sure that particularly the budget items, all this, that we could get it at least 24 to 48 hours in advance of all of these meetings, so you have plenty of time to look at it. So that is the plan moving forward, and we will execute that plan before the next meeting, I promise.
Thank you. I didn't have as many questions, or I didn't have any questions today, because I do like to kind of look at the information ahead of time and study a little bit. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, great. So that I'll take responsibility. I know you want to. I'll take responsibility for that.
One has to take responsibility.
So we'll make sure that happens moving forward, because I need to, from a budget perspective, I really need to look at the numbers before I show up to really be able to have questions.
And on behalf of my team, we're happy to accommodate whatever helps the entire committee to be prepared and have those terrific questions that I agree we had tonight. We are happy to do.
Great. Well, thank you. I know I've been speaking with Ms. Boston-Ellis about that. She did provide for me these budget sheets in advance, and I should have gotten them out to the committee, so I apologize. But I know. Dang it. Messing up my first meeting. So is there any other thing for the board today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
The meeting be adjourned.
All right, second. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.